everybody, Taryl here, and today I'm going to show you.
Hey Taryl.
What?
You busy or something right now?
I'm right in the middle of filming a video.
Oh, well, need some help with this blower.
What's wrong with it?
I'm putting it away for the winter, and I was wondering if you had any tips or tricks to storing it.
Oh, you're in luck, because I was just getting ready to film a video on how to properly store your equipment when you're not using it.
Oh, perfect. Well, I guess I'll just hang out and you can show me what to do. Alright, so what do I need to do to store this for the winter?
Well, you know what? I've got some products over here on the table, so why don't we go over those products first?
Alright, let's do that.
Okay, Slippers, the biggest problem with this small engine equipment is the fuel.
Okay.
Stale fuel, and how to store it to keep the fuel fresh. So there's lots of products on the market, and we're going to go over some of these. Now they have this fuel enhanced formula fuel treatment and stabilizer, and this is the Stabil equivalent. These are basically the same product. And you're supposed to add some of this to your gasoline, and it's supposed to help protect it against many things, like the ethanol that's in the gas, and phase separation, that's where the gasoline separates, and there's water, and the water's heavier, and it's going to be at the bottom of the tank. That's a big problem, moisture, and that's supposed to help with that.
Okay.
And then there's also seafoam.
Yeah, I like that seafoam.
And I do too. I like the seafoam. Now, a lot of people like this product, but most people like this product. Now, my brother Taryl, who's got a shop, he swears by this product, and he swears at this product, or these products. So if I had my choice of what I was going to use in my equipment to store it, I would use the seafoam.
Okay, well how much of this stuff do I need to put in, like the whole can or?
Now that's the biggest mistake people make, is they always think more is better, and they never read what it says on the back. Now for these products, you're supposed to put 1 ounce of this per 5 gallons of gas.
Okay.
But a lot of people, you know what they want to do? They want to store their stuff for the winter, so they'll grab a bottle of this and open the gas cap and pour some in there. And they go, oh, that's enough, that ought to work. More is not always better. This stuff is highly concentrated. And a lot of times if you put too much in, it starts to attack the fuel lines.
No, I don't want that.
And then your fuel lines get mushy and they start to deteriorate. So always read what it says. This, you're supposed to use 1 ounce per gallon.
Okay.
And this is 1 ounce per 5 gallons. So the best thing to do is if you got a gas can that you use to fill your equipment, which most people do, they have a 5-gallon can, would be to put this in the gas that you're going to put in your equipment. So that way when you pour it in your weed eater, your chainsaw, your leaf blower, your generator, your pressure washer, you have this product is in the gas already. So that kind of covers you.
Okay.
Now the 2-cycle oil, which you mix.
Yeah, that's the stuff that I use.
Yeah, that's what's in your blower, because you got a 2-cycle blower.
Okay.
This stuff has got stabilizer in the oil.
Oh,
if you
wow.
read the bottle, it says it has stabilizer.
Oh, sure does.
Now most of your brand name 2-cycle oil like Still, Echo, Dolmar, Makita, Husqvarna, those oils have stabilizer in it. So read the bottle.
Okay, I can do that.
Another thing, Slippers, people don't realize about these fully synthetic 2-cycle oils is they're a multi-ratio oil. That means it can be ran in all different ratio machines.
What does all that ratio stuff mean anyway? Like that 20 to 1, 30 to 1, 42 to 6, final score?
That's a good question, Slippers. The ratio is 50 ounces of gasoline to 1 ounce of oil. That's what that means. If it's 40 to 1, it's 40 ounces of gasoline to 1 ounce of oil. 32 to 1 is what I thought you meant. not 30 to 1.
Oh,
That's 32 ounces of gasoline to 1 ounce of oil. And so on and so forth. 16 to 1. So less gas would be more oil. If it was 16 to 1, that's only 16 ounces of gas to an ounce, where this is 50 ounces. So this is a thinner, leaner mixture.
Okay, I got you there.
But if it's fully synthetic, you can mix this. Like this is a 5-gallon container. This is for 5 gallons of gas you would mix this to. You could run that in anything from 16 to 1 all the way to 50 to 1, and you wouldn't have to worry about ruining your equipment. But people don't know that. It's a multi-ratio oil. It's got to be full synthetic though. Those cheaper brands that they sell at the store, like in a quart bottle, that stuff is no good to run in your high revving chainsaws because that's not a full synthetic oil. I've had a guy do that. Bought those quart bottles and mixed it 50 to 1 and ruined all this stuff. It's got to be synthetic. Remember that, Slippers.
Okay.
And then of course we've got, this is for pressure washers, and this is Pump Saver.
I got a pressure washer.
So this is a product for treating the pump when you go to store it on your pressure washer.
So I probably don't want to leave water in it all winter, right?
No, you don't want to leave water in your pressure washer, especially where we live, where we get snow and things freeze.
Yeah.
And this has got lubricants in it. So this is what you're going to want to use on your pressure washer. You can buy that. Pump Saver, it's called. Now another product is VP 4-cycle fuel. Now this has no ethanol in it.
Okay, so what does that mean?
This is pure fuel and it's 94 octane.
Okay.
So what I recommend for all your lawn equipment is to run the highest grade gasoline.
Alright, I already do that anyway, so.
Yep, because you want to run the highest grade. Now a lot of people will ask me, well, isn't that going to hurt the engine? No, it's not going to hurt the engine. This is small engine fuel made by BP, and it's 94 octane. So that 91 or 93 you get at the gas station is still an octane or 2 point lower than this.
Okay.
And this is small engine fuel. It says right on there, Slippers, small engine fuel.
Look at that, sure does.
And they also make it in a 2-cycle mix, or you can mix this gasoline with oil and make your own 2-cycle mix.
Oh, nice.
So this is another product. I recommend using this in like generators. This is good for generators that sit for a long time.
So I also heard that maybe if you just run all the gas out of your stuff, that should cover you too, or?
Well, the problem with running all the gas out of equipment is you don't get all the gas out. What happens is there's still some left in the carburetor. And this is what it looks like.
Ugh, I don't want that happening to my carburetor.
Because there's going to be a couple of ounces of gas that are going to still be in the float bowl. And what happens is that little bit of gas evaporates over time. And when it evaporates, this is what's left behind. All these boogers. And in some cases, it even gets this bad.
Ugh. That's pretty disgusting there, Taryl.
But I'm going to show you some things to do where this won't happen. You got a couple of options.
I noticed you didn't say anything about this can of WD chilling back here.
That's another good question, Slippers. And we're going to touch on this WD-40 and what I use this for a little bit later in the video. So just you chill with the WD-40. As you old people say, chillin'.
Sounds good to me. So, let's say I want to get the gas out of this pressure washer or this mower over here. What's the best way to do that?
You know what, Slippers? You're full of questions, like a little 3-year-old kid asking question after question. But that's a good question. You got a couple of options.
Okay.
This is what's called a battery-powered transfer pump, which we at our web store at tarylfixesall.bigcartel.com. Or you can go to the grocery store and get yourself one of these turkey basters. And some kind of container, like a plastic coffee can.
Okay.
And you can take the cap off. And you can get in there and you can slowly get all the gas out. Because your other option would be to disconnect the fuel line. But you know what? It's probably easier to do it this way.
Yeah, I got a lot of time on my hands.
The problem with one of these transfer pumps is it may not fit into every... See, it won't fit in that gas tank. But this might work on your tractor or generator.
Okay.
This is a handy dandy tool.
Yeah, looks like it.
So that's what you can do to get the gas out. But then again, you're still going to have gas in the carburetor.
Okay. So
Now,
what do I do about that?
That's another good question, Slippers. You're very inquisitive, like a child.
Huh?
You have childlike qualities for an old man.
Curious like a cat. Just want to know.
Some of these carburetors got a drain on them.
Oh,
Unfortunately, this Honda doesn't. But you could crack the bowl nut. You could just loosen that bowl nut and let the gas run out of there.
Okay, that sounds simple enough.
Or, if you're using those products I talked about, namely the Seafoam is what I like the best. If you have that in there, then you don't have to worry about it. You could just store it with it in there because it's already in there.
Oh, wow. That's
But
pretty easy.
again, with the pressure washer, you're going to want to use that pump saver. And another good idea when you're storing these there pressure washers would be to disconnect the wand from the pump. That's a good idea. And try to get all the water out and store it in a place where it's not going to freeze, because if that water freezes in that pump, it's going to crack it and then you're just going to end up buying a new pressure washer. Same with this here lawnmower. You might want to slurp it out with the turkey baster. But again, you can't get it out of the carburetor. So you're probably better off just having the Seafoam added to your fuel all the time. Let's take, for instance, this snowblower here with the Tacumish engine on it.
Ran over my foot.
Sorry, Slipper. Gotta watch what you're doing. Some of these Tacumishes have a dump valve. Not all of them, but some of them. A lot of people don't even know this dump valve's on there. And that's how you drain the gas. So again, you would probably want to get as much as you can out of the gas tank. And then once you got that pretty empty, just hold that button and that will drain the rest out of the carburetor.
Do I need to drain the oil out too, or?
No, the oil is fine. The oil don't go stale like the gasoline.
Okay.
But you should change your oil on a regular basis.
Alright, I already do that, so.
And make sure you use the proper weight oil.
So what weight do I use in this?
Snow blowers, you typically want to use 5W30 because it's real lightweight.
And what about this mower?
Lawnmowers, depending on what part of the country you live in, like here we live where it gets cold. So if you use a straight 30 weight, that's going to be like thick honey like molasses in there. And it may be difficult to start if it gets below 40 degrees and you're trying to start this thing.
Okay.
And another thing I forgot to tell you about the gasoline is that if you're storing your equipment in like a metal shed, if you have a metal shed, that acts like a hot box or a cold box. And there's two things that'll deteriorate fuel very fast, and that's extreme heat and extreme cold. You ever been in one of them metal sheds in the summertime? It's like 10 times hotter inside there. Or in the winter time, it's like 10 times colder in that thing. Because I see that all the time. People will bring in weed eaters and they'll only be like a year old, and the carburetor's all gummed up and the fuel lines are all rotted off. And I go, where do you store this thing? Oh, in my shed. And I go, what kind of shed you got? Oh, I got a metal shed. That's the worst place you could store some of your equipment. It deteriorates that fuel real fast. So remember that.
Hey Taryl, I got another question about the oil on these mowers over here. So like, if I wanted to use that mower to pick up my leaves and stuff and it's getting cold outside, do I leave that regular 30 weight in there, or do I put 10W30 in, or what? How does that work?
If you're living in an area where it's going to get cold, you're going to probably want to put a lighter oil in there, or an all-weather oil, like a 10W30. And the best way to change your oil is get the motor hot, because when it's hot, it's real liquidy and thin and it comes out better. Otherwise, if you try to drain the oil when it's cold, it's just going to come out like syrup. So that's what you're going to want to do. If you live in an area where the temperature is cold, below 40 degrees, you're going to want to put an all-weather oil in there. Like a 10W30, I would recommend in like a push mower or a riding mower. But if you live in like Florida or California, you could probably just run straight 30 weight year round. So like this here snow thrower, this is a newer model, and this has got almost like a Honda type knockoff engine on it. Now on this float bowl here, it's got a little bolt here, a little 10mm headed bolt. This is the bolt that holds the float bowl on, and this is a drain. So you can take this bolt out and you can drain the gas out of the carburetor from there. Now remember I told you about the WD-40? You know what I like to do when I drain things a lot of times, just to make sure that there's no residue left in there? I'll take that straw, that WD-40, and I'll spray it back up in this carburetor bowl and then put that bolt back in. And that'll keep it all nice and moist in there. Then when you pour the gasoline in to fill it back up, it'll mix with that little bit of WD-40 that's in there, and it'll start. You'll get it running.
Well, what about these riding mowers? Is there anything special I need to know about these? They got like a battery and stuff in it.
Yeah. Again, depending on where you live and where the temperature range is, there's two things that'll kill a battery just like gasoline: extreme heat and extreme cold. So what you're going to want to do is either disconnect the battery or take the battery out, put it in an area to keep it warm, or maybe invest in one of those trickle charger battery tenders. Now I like the battery tender brand one. I have one on my Spitfire that I use all winter long, and I haven't had any trouble with my battery. So you might want to do that. Take the battery out or disconnect the battery, or invest in a battery tender, because there's two things that'll kill a battery just like gasoline: extreme heat and extreme cold. So you're going to kind of want to put that battery in a place where it maintains the temperature. That'll make it last a lot longer. And buy a good battery. Don't buy a cheap one. Buy one with good high cranking amps. It'll last longer. You're going to spend a little bit more money, but in the long run it's going to be worth it. And as far as the gasoline, you might as well just treat it with the seafoam and you should be all right. Because on these riding mowers, you know, they got big gas tanks. You want to be sucking out 4 or 5 gallons of gas and trying to get it out of the carburetor and that. You're probably just better off just treating your fuel with the seafoam. Again, mix it in your 5-gallon can. Don't mix it in the gas tank. And then when springtime comes, put the battery in. Maybe check all the air pressure in your tires. Make sure they're all even. Take the blade off, give it a sharpening, change the oil, and you'll be ready for cutting that grass. Well, Slippers, I hope that answered all your questions about how to store your equipment when you're not... Where'd you go?
Taryl, what about these generators? You didn't talk about these.
Slippers, quit dragging that generator across the floor like that. I can't stand that noise. Okay, Slippers. Same thing applies to a generator as all the other equipment. Now the first problem I see with people is when they get a generator is they take it and they fill the whole tank up full of gas. Then they go out there once a month and they start it. But what they don't realize is that gasoline is still going stale every month it sits. So when I was at one of the service schools, one of the service school teachers told us that every month gasoline sits, it loses an octane point. So if you're using the lowest grade fuel, after 3 months, it lost 3 octane points. So it's 3 octane points below the lowest level. So that again is why you want to run the high grade fuel, the highest grade. So if you're running 91, 2 months later, it's 89. Does that make any sense to you? But the same thing, you're going to want to drain the fuel out of your generator if you're using it for emergency power. Otherwise, you're going to have to recirculate the fuel. You know, that's how it works in your car. In your car, you're driving it every day. So once a week or every 2 weeks, you're always putting gas in it. This stuff is sitting, not having gas in it. So you're going to want to do the same thing. Get the tank dry, especially these metal tanks. With that ethanol in there, they're going to rust. I've seen these tanks come in on these cheap generators. They're all rusty and ruined. That's from the ethanol. So you're going to want to get that gas out. And again, look on the float bowl and see if there's a drain. See, there's a drain on this generator. You can drain it out. And then you can shoot the WD-40 in there and then put that nut back in. And then that way this generator will be ready for when you need it in an emergency. Because whenever there's a power outage here, first thing we get flooded with is 10 generators, and everybody wants their generator now because nobody's got any power. And the reason is old gas. Got to boil out the carburetor, clean out the tank, new fuel lines. So the best thing to do is get that gas out.
So you're telling me that all this stuff in here is pretty much in here for fuel-related issues?
You are correct, childlike old man. Most of these things in here are all fuel-related problems. That's the most thing we see is all fuel-related, old stale gas, all resulting from poor storage practices.
Well, what do I do with this if I want to store this for winter?
Just like gasoline, electricity gets old too. So every month you should plug that in so you can recycle and recirculate the electricity so you have fresh electricity. Nah. So, I hope that answers all your questions on how to properly store your equipment when you're not using it. And as always, there's your dinner. Get out of here, flippers, you're ruining my video.
Alright, I'm going.
There's your dinner.